If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
Cool on the beat.
I mean, what's happening in Africa? It's that time of the day again where you hear the voice of one dude who's trying to get conversations of African millennials a bit more popular. It's Tommy Wale on the African Millennial Radio Show on africabusinessradio.com. And it's good afternoon. How's it doing? I hope rain fell. We've not had rain for about 2 weeks now in Lagos. So I hope rain is falling in Accra. It fell today or fell in Joburg. I think South African guys it's winter now in South Africa, yeah. So you guys should stay covered up. It's again the African Millennial Radio Show, and I have this lady who I've kind of met indirectly over the past 2 years. I think the first time I must have had some type of contact with her was when she was featured in the CEO magazine. And then I got a call one day that her company needs some brand identity work. And I don't know why she thought about me. And I think we got it done well. Got her satisfied. So work on SiSamethod.com. All right, Nnanke, how are you doing though?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
I mean, I know we've always talked about you coming on the show, right? But I was just waiting for the right time to be on the show. We had a couple of things we were building on, right? And I was like, you know what? It's best for Nnanke to come at a particular time. Sorry, permit me. How do you pronounce your name?
I'm actually going to say
Please,
well done.
I'm doing it well?
Yes, okay. I was actually going to say well done.
I'm going to buy myself something this afternoon. I got an name right. I should buy Bolly. All right. So let me tell you guys a bit about Nnanke Essien. Now, Nnanke is a consultant with a vision to transform the way brands and consumers interact. She is the lead strategist at SiSa, an experience improvement company that helps businesses reposition for market takeover. A visionary, an innovator, and a gifted, let me include one, a very jovial and free-spirited person. I mean, if Nnanke walks into a room, I think the mood of the room changes instantly. That's a very, very positive energy we need around these days. You know, she's a conceptual thinker with over 16 years experience as a highly regarded speaker, HR consultant, strategic planner, and coach to entrepreneurial individuals and groups. I mean, just thinking is 30 minutes going to be enough for this conversation. With just that's a part of our profile. I think we need to get this show to be an hour. Anyways, Nnanke, thank you for coming on the African Millennial Radio Show.
Thank you so much for having me and for over-embellishing my profile. It's okay.
Should I continue?
No. Let's just stop. Let's be modest.
All right, that's cool. So, what we've been talking about since this whole pandemic started, right? Or just after the pandemic started, was about how people can get themselves back on their feet. A couple of maybe sectors, of course, had very wonderful times with their books during the pandemic, so FMCGs and things like that. But then some other people, I'm talking about events planners, so many people, just, okay, what's going to happen? I had a friend who his major work was around events planning, right? Drinks and all of that. But then he had a logistic thing going on the side. So he tweeted and said that thank God he had a logistic thing going on the side, and that was what actually got him, some cash flow during the pandemic. Now, people now started things like, okay, work from home. I mean, I couldn't count the amount of work from home things I saw on the internet at the time. I think HR professionals became a bit, photosynthesis. We work from home, during the pandemic. And, people were saying, working from home is harder than going to work. And some people said, no, I prefer work from home and things like that. So the workplace changed, right? It could be physical, but then it became, what's it called? Virtual. Right. I was about to say something else, but this is not church, right? It became virtual. Now, according to what you know about workplace culture, according to what you see it as, according to who you are, right? What is the ideal culture for a workplace right now?
Well, so I like your introduction, and I like the fact that you mentioned that a lot of people had to literally take their workplace from a physical location to the virtual space. Yeah. And that for me just kind of describes what an ideal environment is. And what I mean by that is that it is devoid of a physical location, it is devoid of the environment where you're doing the business, but it's more or less an environment that is devoid of confusion. Right? It is more or less an environment that more or less can meet the needs at some point of every stakeholder involved. And by stakeholder, I mean the employees. By stakeholder, I mean the customers. By stakeholder, I mean also the vision and the direction of the organization. I think that's what would define for me an ideal environment. And the reason I say this is because we've started working from home, assuming all of these parameters were not available, assuming all these parameters were not present. Really, how would people cope? If one, they didn't understand the direction of the organization or the vision of the organization, if they didn't understand how they fit into that vision or that direction, if they also didn't understand who exactly the core focus was in terms of clients, in terms of client needs, how exactly are we supposed to consistently ensure that the work from home style pretty much worked or achieved these needs? So for me, an ideal environment is devoid of all the fanfare of a physical location, but ensuring that the people who are within the business are not confused about what the brand stands for, and basically it can fulfill their needs. Now, I know a lot of employers run away from the benefits to an employee, right? They run away from the value proposition for the employee, but that's also an important aspect, because if you listen to my elder brother Maslow, right, he talks about the hierarchy of needs, and it's very critical even till today, because man looks for satisfaction, man looks for an ability to be able to belong to an environment. So beyond just the psychological, the physiological needs or the safety needs, man starts to ascend that ladder. So if I work in an environment where my purpose is not aligned to the purpose of the organization, you tend to hear things like, oh, my organization is tiring, I hate working here, I am dissatisfied, I'm not where I need to be. And guess what? Business leaders, business owners, wherever we find ourselves, we have the opportunity to create that experience of, oh wow, I really love working here, regardless of where I'm working here from, or oh no, it was a mistake joining this organization in the first place. So I think the parameters that make an ideal environment, an ideal workplace, like I mentioned before, is just beyond the fanfare of a physical workplace. Is what do we stand for, and who are the disciples or the ambassadors that are going to help us push this to our promised land or to the final destination. I think that's the word.
Okay, so I could just imagine some people now being pushed to work from home, and they don't even like the organization or whatever thing goes on in the organization, but they just want to get their money and get out. Now, they're not working from home. I could just imagine the rate of laziness that would just step into the place and go like, you know what, I'm not going to join this Zoom call. Do you think that?
Well, I hear you.
Okay.
And if you'd listen to what I said initially, you would hear how that can happen. Every employee will literally exhibit different types of mindsets. I don't like going into this part, but I would have to go in there. We exhibit different types of mindsets. The first type of mindset is the job mindset. Oh, I'm coming to look for a job. It's basically transactional. I do the job, you pay me my money. I don't care what else goes into your environment. But you notice that as you start to ascend the ladder in the organization, you're telling yourself, well, what's more for me? What else is in here for me? You personally will start to ask yourself that question because you're done expending the energy that has to do with that job mindset. So if you're one who is progressive with your career, the next thing you're thinking about is, okay, don't I get promoted? Won't I get, newer job titles? Won't I get newer responsibilities? Won't I get, do you understand? And that's when you ascend into that career mindset, that growth mindset. But some people just stay there. And the organizations tend to only feed these two levels. Now, I'm not saying these two levels are bad. I mean, it's important because you need to spend time to learn what to build. You need to spend time to learn how to grow. You need to spend time to understand your own competencies as it relates to the organization. But where the rubber hits the roof and where transformation happens and where sustainable growth happens is where the employer now gets into that purpose and visionary mindset, where there's actual... Sorry, this tautology, but actualization of the purpose why you're there, and that's where an organization is visionary in itself. That's when an organization is purpose driven in itself. That's when an organization allows you to be innovative even within the confines of the environment, and that's why this conversation is critical because I see that in different phases of business. Because I've seen quite a number. I'm a young child, but I've seen quite a number of different phases in businesses, and I've seen that the critical thing is, as we grow, many times when we start the business, we want to quickly rush, we want to quickly run and get it done. But we forget the things that help us get it done. We forget the things that help us grow. We forget the parameters we need to focus on. And then we get to the 5-year mark and we are like, nothing is working. My team members are lazy. They don't even understand what is going on. They don't this, they don't that. But we forget the foundations. And the moment the foundation is broken, it's almost impossible for you to build the right pillars that will help you sustain the growth that you require. So I hear when those staff members are annoyed and angry because I've been in both phases before, where I'm advising and where I'm at the receiving end as well. And I've seen that a lot of employers just want to push the Trojan and just make you do without even considering. But there was something I introduced in one of the companies I was consulting for. They had like a COVID help desk, and we heard of team members who the office was their escape. Working from home was more or less them dipping deep into what you call depression. Because, office was an escape for them. But just the mere fact that they had an environment to speak and hear other people who had the same concerns, it helped. So sometimes this stubbornness doesn't really come from, I hate my organization. It's that I'm not being heard. I don't feel I belong. I don't feel that I'm a part of this organization. And as a human being, we always, if you find somebody who's giving you attention, what will happen? You will draw close to that person. So as an employee too, I also feel that way. I want to be heard. I want to own my own span of, influence within the organization. I want to feel that when push comes to shove, they will call me and will get things done. I want to feel that way. But whereby I don't get that sense, that's when you start to hear complaints. And the beauty about these complaints that misery always has followers. So the moment you start complaining, you find other people will say, it's true. It's true. The it's true conversation now becomes a lot more. And when you don't have a pillar, you don't have a structure, you don't have a standard for the kind of story you want around your environment, these people tend to become even more, and that cycle just continues. And before you know what's happening, you find that everybody's depressed, there's no innovation, people are not doing things, and you have a high rate of disengagement within your workforce. And you don't want that. I don't know if it's me that is just dreaming this thing or why.
No, because I could just imagine someone who is maybe tired of his 9 to 5 right now, listening to this show, and then is hearing this and thinking, okay, there's a stage where this can happen, no matter what I said from the beginning. Now put this environment into consideration, where it doesn't particularly encourage entrepreneurship. Right? You have to create your own infrastructure. You have to fight against all the forces, yourself, and then you not get to work again. You're trying to balance that one out, right? And then something happened. Some virus decided to take a world tour from China, and then it's everywhere right now. So I don't want to say that. This is the part of entrepreneurship that many people don't talk about. Right. What you just came from right now. Okay. Let's move on. We can dwell on that single thing for like the next 1 hour.
Trust me.
Right. But I'm happy you said this. I'm very, very happy, that came to fore. So what's happening right now? It's July 31st of the great year 2020. Right. What should brands and businesses start doing when it comes to having the ideal workplace as regards, okay, I'm going to talk about that later. The ideal workplace right now, right? So some people are doing virtual, some people are doing the Lagos state government has a particular thing with traffic going on right now. People are stressed, right? So what should organizations be doing right now as regards having an ideal workplace for, the growth of whatsoever?
All right. So, thank you for that. I think that's very valid. The first thing that I would say is very unorthodox, but I would say introspection. That's the first thing that I would say for many organizations at this particular stage. And the reason being that you want to ask yourself, what is most important to you as an organization? Remember when I talked about starting and just running with speed and not really stopping to think about the things that build your organization? You want to ask yourself, what is most important to us now as an organization? What is our vision? Is it big enough, or is it limiting us? Is it compelling us to do much more, or is it stifling us? You want to ask those critical questions. It might not be necessarily easy for you to do it by yourself because you're in the picture, you assume you know a lot. But you want to share this with your team members as well. You want to share this with your executive management if you do have them. You want to share them with a thinking partner or a friend, or somebody who can just help you brainstorm and help you clean out the lines. And the reason this is important is that it starts to help you understand what pillars to infuse in this foundation that you're starting to build. So if for you, what is important is having people who are passionate about your brand or who are passionate about the message. You're doing an audit within your system to say, people that we have here, did we just hire them because they're the only ones in the workforce, or because they're the only ones who have talent, or because they really understand why they are in this environment, right? And they really key into the vision and they can help us drive it. Now, when they even come in, what processes do we have in place to help them understand the story, to help them understand the passion that we have as an organization, to help us understand how we want to get to the promised land, to help them understand that they can innovate, they can build, they can grow, they can help us, literally. What processes do we have in place? Now, what behavior are we looking for to have in that environment to ensure that whatever internal brand we have is commensurate or it mirrors what we are showing externally as our brand. So brands need to start now to do that audit, to do their system audit as it relates to their people, their processes, and their culture. More so, they have to put their vision to question. It's very important because, I'm quite obsessed with companies who have stayed over 100 days. We don't have a lot of them in Nigeria. I dare say we don't have any. But we don't have a lot of them in Nigeria. But I've studied quite a number of brands outside the country. And I've seen that one thing stands. Their vision never really changes. What changes pretty much is the strategy, the business plan, the people. That's what changes, because they have identified what literally helps them to grow. They have identified what they want to be. They have identified who they want to be. They've identified, the fulcrum literally, and all they're doing is to continuously improve on those things that help them grow. So if it is customer experience, if it is the customer behavior that has changed, if it is the market space that has changed, if it is newness in the environment, they have different parameters that help them hear, that help them retain the vision, but still help them to get across to the clients. So it's important for business owners right now to be able to take stock of where they are. And you can also get to do some practical things like doing your internal customer satisfaction survey and asking questions about where your team members are, how they feel, and be ready for the answers. Be ready for the answer, because some of them may not be as exciting as you might want it. Some of them may not be as juicy as you might want it. Some may be raw truth. And you must be ready for this, because if you really anticipate change, you must be ready to go from where you are to where you intend to be. But you must also define where you want to be and the people you want to take to where you want to be and the processes that lead you there. So now is a great opportunity to rescope the environment, rescope what is going on within the space, vis-a-vis what you have desired as your direction, vis-a-vis the people within your environment, vis-a-vis the culture that you have, vis-a-vis the processes, and then you make a headway. And another thing that I dare say is that within this period, you don't want to make decisions by yourself. You want to have people involved in that decision making. By people, I mean your team, people you have in your environment. You want to have them as part of you might not take their decisions, you might not take their solutions rather, but that you listen to them, that you make them be a part of it. It's something that a lot of employees are craving these days that they don't get to do, they don't get to see. And organizations who have been able to key into the strengths of their team and have seen that, they've seen an emotional connection of the people to their brand, and they've seen more loyalty, they've seen more longevity, they've seen more success, and more so they can begin to be accountable for the amount of growth that they have, and they can see that growth systematically happening. I just wish that a lot of entrepreneurs would understand this and just take it into consideration.
That's why entrepreneurs should go on Google now and just search Nnanke Essien. Because See the way I was just staring. I couldn't, before I've been saying, yeah, right, good, because I was feeling it. I mean, I was just dead on listening. If you search Nnanke Essien, you see business visibility builder. That's the first thing you see on Google when you search it. I mean, it's that obvious right now that you need to say hello to her. Check her on Instagram, Nnanke _ Essien. Google her. She has a website, nnankeessien.com, and then SiSaMethod.com. Right? Bombard them with phone calls, texts, and all of that. Now, I'm hearing things about corporate culture, corporate governance, and everything you've been saying, right? Can you shed some light on that and the importance of that when it comes to, growing the business further or starting, what you want to start?
Okay. So when we talk about culture, it's just simple. It's your way of life. Right. You're wearing a hat right now, which I really like. If I think about the culture, it's the Yoruba culture. If I think about this, my brother here is Yoruba culture. I'm the only one who is the European here, right? It's just your way of life. It's your way of doing things. Now think about these two scenarios. You're a CEO. You go to Abuja, you get the deals, you come on into the work environment. Your team members don't know where you are. They just know that Oga has traveled, right? You come back. You call your right-hand man into your office. Your right-hand man just hears everything you have to say. And because the right-hand man doesn't want to disappoint you, he just goes ahead and starts to do the work. He gets overwhelmed at some point. He starts to abuse everybody in the shop floor. You guys have no brain. You guys are not doing this. You guys are not doing that. And they are wondering, but Oga just walked in. He came in. He called you. You did. You that. We don't know what is going on. But then you keep hammering them and shouting, you guys are not innovative. You guys don't think. You guys don't do this. I'm telling you real life scenarios. I'm not even going to pick, and I hope they don't know I'm talking about them. But yeah, this happens and this cycle goes on and you're wondering, why am I even here? Right? Just hold that thought. Think about this other organization where the boss goes out, gets the business, comes into the business. This one is excited. He does all he needs to do. He comes, he shares it with his team. Everybody is excited. There are people, they sit down around the table, they brainstorm on how they go, and everything goes cold. Everything just goes cold from there and nothing happens. Now, this is the danger of not being able to have an organizational culture. In company A and company B, we can see that there is no culture of innovation. There is no culture to take action. There is no culture of high standards. There is no culture. In fact, I dare say that your culture pretty much is your values in motion, is your values in action. So if as an organization you do not have your values, of which you are hinging all your every behavior, every business development, every staff, every business that you have, everything on. If you do not have that, please, how do we then begin to describe a culture? And then we impose this culture on people and assume that they know what to do. No, they won't know what to do. We need to be able to, itemize our culture in such a way that people can, it's so tangible that anybody who walks into an organization can pick it up. And how does that happen? Let us know your war stories. Let us know where we all started from. Let us know the direction the organization is going. Let us know how resilient you were within the practice. Let us understand what we need to, let's understand your onboarding process. Let's have a system where, every single day we are aware that let me give you a simple example. In one organization I worked in, we used to have this daily bulletin, a monthly bulletin rather, and it was just information and helping people to understand a few things within our organization, right? And then I had this front desk girl who was very interested in doing this bulletin. She would just come, ma, please let me help you. And I said, okay, go ahead, do it, and she would do it. This girl started coming up with different ideas. At the point, I'm like, Auntie, calm down now. She comes up with different beautiful ideas about how the bulletin should go. I said to her, anything you want to do, you are fine, but it must be within the confines of 10 pages because we don't want it to get too boring, and it must hinge on the story we want to tell people, on the lesson for the year, because we usually do it per theme per year. And she went brilliantly. At some point, I couldn't touch the bulletin again. It was off my power. This girl was flying excitedly, and she would tell everybody she sees at the corridor that, guess what, I'm doing the bulletin, I'm the one that, it was a beautiful experience to watch. And I said, all I gave her was the confines with which she could do anything, but I gave her a frame that don't go beyond this, but she was able to express herself. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to express themselves within organizations, and we need to get this conversation on. So if you really want innovators, if you really want people who are thinkers, if you really want people who grow within your organization, you must build that environment. Now let me give you something funny. I did recruitment a few months ago, and I figured out that there was a huge falling from people from non-traditional environments. I don't want to segregate or stereotype people. That's what I'm not calling it kind of. But we had people coming from non-traditional environment. And I said, but why would you want to come from this non-traditional environment to a traditional space? Why? And she goes, oh, no, I'm an accountant. In my office, they let us play music. Anyway, people start to play music up and down. And because people start to play music, I want to concentrate and do my work. I don't think I like that. But people just think a blanket culture like that fits everybody. You hear what I'm saying? Fits every single person. No. The honest truth is that where is your organizational fit? What is the definition of who fits into the organization? And what is the culture within that space? You build it and you get the right people to get in there. Just don't just think that because company A is doing it, it fits into our fabric, it fits into the people within our environment. It won't work. So as an organization, you need to be able to answer that question, starting from the vision to the people who are required and the kind of behavior that will get you to the... And don't forget, the most important people in this is still our clients. If we don't have a way to get to them or we don't have the right behavior to get to them, we lose them. And what happens at the end of the day? We go back to square zero.
I mean, you know what? You said a point at some point.
Yeah.
I quickly went on Twitter to type it, but I don't want to. Your Twitter account is Nnanke.
Yes.
Okay, so I can tweet that now and you get a notification in a bit. I mean, Nnanke, you've opened up this thing wider than I thought. Right? You see that thing about people understanding people, or the example you gave about the lady, right? That was that brought in more ideas, and all you just needed to do was just tell her, okay, this is what we want to achieve, this is the goal, and then she just came. You created an environment for her, right, in her head. It's something that I've chipped in many times over with guests that come, especially guests that have to do with human resources and business development and whatnot, that organizations or people need to create an environment of expression within, that vision confinement. I don't want to call it confinement.
Yeah, within that environment.
Within that environment, right? And then all you just need to do is sit and watch things grow in ways. Nnanke, time is up.
I'm
angry. I told you, 30 minutes is always short.
How?
Are you going to come back?
Please, next week.
Okay. You back the table. Okay, guys, Nnanke is going to be back next week, right? We're going to have season 1 episode 2 next week. We have to go right now, but bombard her, right? She's Nnanke _Essien on Instagram and Nnanke on Twitter, right? Check out NnankeEssien.com and then SiSaMethod.com, right? Have conversation with her and then tell many people. I'm sorry? It's, of course, the Nnanke is double N, please. Double Nnanke, right? Nnanke is going to be on next week Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, next week Friday, right? And then we would, have a whole lot more conversation in another 30 minutes about this, right? Thank you very much for joining the African Millennial Radio Show once again. It's Tommy Wale on Africa Business Radio. Don't forget to stay safe and then, Eid Mubarak to my Muslim brothers everywhere. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa. You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where